Hello, everybody. We are here doing another podcast. Our next guest is someone I met through Facebook. I've seen her content. I'm always kind of not even necessarily looking for guests, but I'm always looking for people out here who are just doing, something good, trying to help and, motivate or inspire, or just, provide information for those out there who have disabilities or whatever it is. It could be addiction or whatever, but just someone who fights every day, and struggles, but also gives back and tries to help others. Because that's, to me, is full circle, and it makes it, for me, I love those type of people who, even though they may not be feeling up to it, or they're hurting physically, mentally, but they're out here still, trying to help others and make it so that their lives are easier. And sometimes we, as a person who does that myself, we focus so much on other people, we don't focus enough on ourselves. But anyway, I saw some of her content, and she's posted, many videos over the time that I've known her, and she does good content. And so I just wanted to have her on. So you want to tell us your name, sweetheart, and like a little bit about yourself?
Yes, my name is Catherine Knight. I was born with proximal femoral focal deficiency (PFFD), and it's a birth defect in the lower. It's a lower limb birth defect. My hip and femur bone on my right leg were affected, which affected my right leg's growth. So therefore, I had to have many surgeries as a child, many hip surgeries. I had they amputated part of my right foot so I could use a prosthesis. Although it was very realistic looking, it wasn't very practical, and I'm still looking for that perfect prosthesis. But
Yeah.
as far as my mobility,
How does it affect your mobility, like on a daily basis?
the disability itself,
Yeah.
um, without my prosthesis, I've ever since I got the amputation when I was 4, almost 5, but ever since I can remember, I can get around. I found ways to adapt to get around, and I usually get around real well with my crutches
Okay.
around my house, around running errands and everything. With the prosthesis, it depends on how it's made. The prosthetics of the 70s and 80s and 90s were not very practical. They looked realistic, but the functionality wasn't quite there. I still had to use a crutch, one of my crutches, to walk with, even with my prosthetic on. So right now, I'm in the process of getting another prosthesis, and hopefully, it will be where I can walk without any mobility aid at all. But that's my goal. We're going to try for that.
Sure.
That's where I am.
Now, is this something that you were born with, or is it something that
Yes,
developed over time? Okay.
I was born with this. Yes, it's called PFFD, proximal femoral focal deficiency.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
So I mean, it's a very like hack question to ask, but like, when is the first time that you kind of discovered that, like, oh, okay, I don't want to say not normal or different, whatever you want to use, because I'm not really politically correct, but when was the first time you realized, like, okay, maybe I'm a little different than the other
Oh
kids?
wow, probably between between 18 months and 2 years old, because I had to have many surgeries. Because my right leg, it was shorter than my left. I had to be fit with a special brace
Hmm.
to extend, my leg as I walked around. This was before my amputation. So I noticed that other children didn't need things like that. So I noticed that quite young, between 18 months and 2 years old. I knew that I was different.
Yeah, I think it
Hmm.
took me a little longer in life. Well, I also didn't. My disability was caused from a high allergic reaction to medication that
Oh,
made me
okay.
lose most of my vision. So
Oh,
that didn't
okay.
happen until I was 4. But I think it
Mm.
just was where when I finally went to like school, like preschool, kindergarten area, and I was just like, oh, you are different from
Yeah.
me. Why? It's not just
Hmm.
that maybe you have a different color skin or whatever. It was, no, you can see on the, like, some. I remember kid reading something off the chalkboard from his desk, and I'm like, you can do that? Oh,
Mm.
crap. All right. Well, damn, I can't do that. And And I mean, and of course I went through a lot of bullying and things like that as well. But
Mhm.
yeah, it took a while. It took a little while for me to realize that. And then once you think, because I've said this a lot of late, is just like when you're a kid, being different is not cool. You don't want to be
No,
different because that's when you get
no.
picked on, you get ostracized, and people look at you and say, "Ew, I don't want to hang out with
Hmm.
the so and so kid." And
Right.
but then when you get older, that's when you're able to try to figure out who you are. I mean, if you can tap into your disability or whatever it is that kind of separated you from the pact, if you're able to kind of look at that and go, oh, okay, I am different, and that's what makes me great. Because when you look
Hmm.
around at the landscape of social media and the world these days, everybody is trying to do what everyone else is already doing. All the trends. I mean, if you're different, you can easily stand out, and you can like yourself more. You're like, I'm not trying to be anyone else. I'm just trying to be myself.
And that's what I noticed. I noticed it even more when I started preschool. I started preschool when I was about 2.5. It was like, yeah, I was almost 3. And that's when I really can notice, the just not just with the children, how they were, but I could tell with the adults how. Remember, this was I was 2.5 years old in 1975. This is 1 year after the ugly laws were lifted, and I remember feeling that I couldn't explain at the time, but I can tell that society wasn't used to people like us, to disabled people, by the way they acted and how, you know, fake some of their kindness was. And I couldn't understand what it was until I learned later on about the ugly laws, and it made sense. They ended in 1974. I was born in 73. So
Yeah,
I came right at the beginning of that. And so society was getting used to disabled people out in public
yeah,
where it was legal. Because ugly laws were lifted. And I remember feeling that very thing, and so from the adults, I felt that I didn't get the same treatment as the able bodied or abled children. I could feel that even as a preschooler
hmm,
because they weren't used to disabled children, you know?
right,
You know, there was no longer a thing where they could say no. So since they had no inclusivity training, none of that existed back then. So they really didn't know how to handle or discipline or react with, or because it was new for them. It
right,
was new for all of society. So, but I did have it very difficult starting in preschool. Yes,
okay.
it was very.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that has changed for the good, and I'm not really into politically correctness or censorship
Mhm.
of words, because I think eventually we just sugarcoat stuff and we're really not saying
Mhm.
what we want to say. But
Mhm.
I think, because many years ago, I mean, again, I was born in '88, but there was an openness to
Mhm.
just be like, hey, look at that crippled kid, or hey,
Mhm.
what's wrong with his face, or whatever.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I feel like the way to fight ignorance is with information. There are
Mhm.
people that aren't going to take to it, and they're not going to listen anyway. But there are a lot of people who are ignorant, but aren't intentionally being ignorant. They just weren't brought up the right way, or they just haven't been provided the right information. And sometimes, like for me, I
Mhm.
don't know how you are, but I'm a very open person about all the things I've gone through. And if somebody's like, hey, if they approach me the right way, and they're like, hey, I'm very curious about what's going on with your eyes, or whatever, however they want to put it, as long as it's not like, hey, what's wrong with you, or what's wrong with your eyes, why
Right.
do your eyes look like that, I'm
Right. The
all
context.
yeah, I'm open to just telling you, oh yeah, man, I had this disease called Steven Johnson syndrome, and this and this and that, and so on and so on. But I think that is one thing that has changed for the good. Again, there's still a lot of ignorant people, and there's a lot of people, because of censorship and people worried about losing their jobs, they may feel that way. They just won't say it because of you know uh,
Right.
the repercussions or whatnot. But I do feel like
Mhm.
less people um, as they're not as ignorant as they used to be, for sure. But I will say it is sometimes how you carry yourself too, because as a person
Mhm.
who's visually impaired, I tell people I'm legally blind, so they think I'm totally blind, which is not true. I can see some, and but
Mhm.
they don't know how bad it is. So when you say that you're not blind, they immediately assume you can see really well, because they only know
Right.
blind and fully sighted. They don't know the in
Right.
betweens, and I'm more towards I'm closer to blind than I am sighted. But
Okay.
but it's like people are kind of thrown off because I wear very colorful outfits and I match them with my shoes, and I navigate through life very easily for the most part without really running into stuff. You would have to look really close to really pay attention to like how I'm kind of alert and looking around at stuff. But in general, like I just know how to, especially if I'm familiar with an area, I can easily just I could close my eyes and navigate it if I wanted to. But if you carry yourself almost in a way that you're not disabled, you are, but it's a part of you, and it's just doesn't define you. And you have almost like a certain attitude where you're like, look, I'm TJ. I'm not blind TJ. I'm TJ who is so
Right.
happily visually impaired. I'm not, here for your jokes. Like now, if we have a relationship and we joke with each other, that's fine. But if you don't know me, don't do that.
Right.
I'm here.
Right.
I'm a person first, and that's why we told.
Yeah, that's how.
Yeah.
That's how I perceive myself too. Like, yes, I have a disability, but I'm Kathy. I like this. I like art. I like music. I like, I tried to put on that persona too,
Yeah.
but unfortunately, society doesn't see all that. They just see your disability, and that's all they focus on. No matter how much you try to put yourself out there, that's what I noticed growing up. As a teenager, as a child, teenager, young adult.
Mm-hmm.
An adult, that, yeah,
Right.
I noticed that. Mm-hmm.
I think I just got to such a place about 5-6 years ago. I just got tired of taking people's shit. I got tired of no one listening to me or not taking me serious. I just started being my best advocate. I just said, I'm not taking this anymore. Like I'm a shy, awkward person, but I have to come out of my awkward comfort zone. And I have to let people know that I have a voice. I am a real person, and I have feelings. And help growing up in a rough city like Philadelphia as well, that hardened me. But it was like I'm a person, and you could if you want to look at me as I'm just a blind kid that works here or goes to school here or whatever, go ahead. But I guarantee you're going to be one of the only people in the room that's going to think that, because I'm not going to let anything hold me back. The only thing that holds me back is when I struggle with mental health. So only I'm holding me back. You're not. And and that's why, like I said, that's why I try to do all the things I do and try to be a huge representative, like a great representative of us, because we don't have many people. We don't have a lot of superheroes to look up to.
Yeah, the reason why the gloves came off for me, was because it upset me that I was seeing TikTok videos and different videos on different social media platforms of children still going through the same thing that I went through in 1975 through 91, and I'm like, okay, that means society hasn't improved at all or has not done anything to combat this issue at all. Because, and that just made me snap. The whole thing with, I don't know if you're familiar with Adalia Rose.
The name sounds familiar.
Okay. Well, she's a girl that was born with progeria.
Okay.
And she was featured on YouTube, and, she just wanted to be a social media star. And so her parents, although they were worried about her, they supported her in that. And she got attacked ugly. This was happening during like the 2010s.
Okay.
And during that time, that just bothered me so much, how these people just made memes of her, and she was 5 years old at the time.
Hi, Timothy. This is Deb from
which
Geisinger.
Told me that they don't care that she's a child. They bullied her anyway.
Right.
And they were relentless with her. I mean, they made some horrific memes about her and just compared her to an alien, and it was just horrible. And that's when I just said, no, she's a child. How dare these grown people do that? And that's what fed into this, I guess, advocacy in me,
Right.
And also, I don't know if you've heard of David Philip Vedder.
No.
Okay, he's the boy in the plastic bubble.
Oh, that guy. Yes. Okay. I didn't know his name,
Okay.
but yeah.
Yes. That is his name. And when the movie Bubble Boy came out, which was pretty much mocking his disability,
Right, I remember that.
that upset me, because I, you know, was he meant a lot to me, and that movie bothered me. I was a new mom at the time. I was going through postpartum, and that just really upset me. His family tried to speak out to get the movie canceled, and they said, "No, we can do what we want to. He's a public figure. It's a free country. We're making the movie," without any care of how his family felt or anything.
They made it like a freak show.
Yes, they did, and it took a toll on his mother and his sister.
I bet.
And so with that, and Adalia Rose, and a few other children who were being bullied, I said, no, I just need to speak up, because if they don't care about children, disabled children, that says a lot, you know.
No,
And
100%. There was a
hmm
there was a was it Lifetime or no, it might have been VH1 or something. I saw a video of a guy who he had no legs and he basically had no lower
hmm
body. It was just arms and I think up to his stomach. And um, anyway, they made it like a freak show. It's like, look at this guy going to the grocery store and he's got his little tricycle and he's climbing up on things. And I'm like, wow, this guy is amazing. Like, this guy is so
hmm
cool. Like, how is he doing all this? He's just flying around on his hands.
hmm
But to the way they shot it, it was like, this guy is just a freak. And I'm like, and that, like, the more I didn't think that it was wrong then because I was young. But now when I go back and see stuff like that, it's like, oh my God. Like, yeah, like, we're just here for people's entertainment. I remember they had that show. What was it? It was on Animal Planet. It was with like people with dwarfism and pit bulls.
hmm hmm
And it's like, oh, look at these cute little things running around with their dogs that are so much bigger than them. And it's like, no, man, like these guys are cool as hell. Like, I don't, and gals, like,
Yeah,
I don't know why do you see them as that? Like, I,
right.
I
I just saw them as a family. Like, I just saw them as a family that happened to be parents that were little people. Like, if that's the show you're talking about.
yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
yeah. I started just liking them, as people and what they like to do, and I didn't, I'm sure I noticed that they were little people, but that wasn't the reason why I was watching. You know, Whereas some people solely just watch it just to see what little people are up to.
right. Well, I
You
mean,
know?
the few things that we struggle with is to be heard, to be noticed, and to
hmm
be loved. And if we could get one or two of those things, we're like, yeah, we'll sell our soul for not all of us, obviously, but we'll sell
Yeah.
ourselves for a documentary or for a movie or a TV series because who
hmm
cares how you make us look? We don't care
hmm
because that's fine.
Right.
You wanna make fun of us? You're paying us a couple $100,000, or I'm on
Right.
TV. That's cool.
Right.
And it's like that's some things where it's like I'm not going to be I'm TJ. So everything else,
hmm
you want to ask questions, sure, but don't add labels to my name because that's
Right.
not who I am. And you may take me as like I'm ignorant or maybe I'm an asshole of a person. You could take me however you want. I don't really care because deep down I know I treat people well and I treat everyone the same. So I know that I'm a
hmm
good person. But if you're one of those people that judges from afar, you can stay as far away from me because
hmm
I,
Yeah.
I just spent time. One of our past guests, I just spent time in her house. She's wheelchair bound for the most part, and I spend time in her house, and it's weird because to me, and this isn't to make light of anything, it's like I looked at myself as less disabled for the first time in my life. Like
hmm
I'm spending the night there. And
hmm
she's just like, I need help with it. Like she didn't really ask. She would just sometimes she would say, "Can you do this?" or whatever, and I would just be like, "Yeah, sure." Like she's like, "You don't have to. Like I don't want you to strain your eye." I'm like, "No, like I got the mobility to
hmm
do it. Like that's what we're supposed to do. Look out for each other. There are some things I may need you to read something with your vision. Like, well, that's how we help each other." And I was just in awe of everything that she could do because she could do so much. And I'm just like, oh my God, like I can, and it was just a fascinating, I don't want to say experiment, but it was just such a interesting situation because I had never stayed overnight with, or, spent the day with someone in a wheelchair. Like, well, my grandfather had MS, but he never left he stayed on the same floor, and he had a refrigerator and a bed, and he didn't
Mm-hmm.
never left pretty much that area. Whereas she was
Mm.
flying all over her house in a wheelchair, and then she would climb up the steps and stuff. And it's like it was weird to see life through another person with a disability, with a different disability's lens. But I didn't take it as like, oh, this is terrible. I'm like, she makes it look good. Like
Right.
everything's possible.
Right. How she adapted it and got around, and how she found a way, and yeah, that's what I know what you mean. You were amazed by that and impressed, I'm sure.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
have you ever been to, when you were a child, did you ever have the experience of going to a disability camp or
No,
anything like that?
no.
Okay.
I went to like a
I
visually impaired, like blind school,
okay.
but no camps.
Okay. I did have that experience for 2 weeks in 1984 at this camp in Texas. It's called the Texas Lions Camp. Back then, it was called the Texas Lions Camp for crippled children. Now it's just the Texas Lions Camp.
Yeah, that wouldn't fly
But
now.
oh no, that sure wouldn't fly. But that was the full name of it in 1984 when I went.
Yeah.
And but that was where I got to really experience other children with. I mean, there was tons of children there with all kinds of disabilities and all that. And so I when you told me about that, there was this one girl, I think her name was Kimberly, and she used a wheelchair, and I don't know what her disability was, but she totally depended on that wheelchair. But at the same time, when it was time to go swimming, she would, put that thing to the side and get down from it and scoot her way to the pool and just jump in. And, I was just, like, oh, wow, and just seeing how kids just, yeah, I'm like this, but I'm going to have fun. And this is how I get around. And, there was, I learned sign language when I was there because, there was deaf children there. There were people with, visual impairments or blindness, some with total blindness, some with some vision like you. And it's just, you got to really just, I don't know, it was an indescribable experience, just seeing, different children with this, different disabilities, but different capabilities. And so I was glad to experience that.
That sounds cool. Yeah. Did you see the documentary Crip Camp?
Not yet. I'm trying to find time to watch it. I've heard so much about it, and yeah, I want to see it.
Yeah, when you watch it, I would love to know your take on it because it's very good.
Okay,
it's very inspiring.
That's what I've heard.
The only thing I'll tell you, I mean, it starts off like one of those camps. I think it was even called Crip Camp. But there's one part of the documentary that really opened my eyes when they were fighting to try to get the ADA passed. There were all these people with disabilities, and some were in the building, some were out of the building. They only let so many in, and they were sleeping on the floor, and some of them, they get bed sores. They can't stay in one spot, and they were all looking out for each other. And then they wanted to find a way to communicate with each other because when something would happen indoors, they didn't have cell phones then. It was the early 90s. So it was like, well, how do we communicate? And so then somebody inside was like, oh, get them to come to the window and we'll do sign language. So the deaf people communicated to the others who knew sign language outside, and they just looked out for each other. And it's really what kind of lit a fire under me as an advocate, because it's like, it doesn't mean I have to necessarily even fight or go out and do that. It's just as long as I'm getting my voice out, and as long as I'm helping other people and trying to, and I'll go out there and fight if I have to. But it's like, it's just taking the baton from what they did and running with it, because I think a lot of us just kind of got complacent and we all separated in our own little directions, and we just said, yeah, that's cool that you did all that, but we're just going to stay here now. And it's like, no, you got stagnant. We now have to do more, because we're 70%
unemployed. Up together.
Yeah, 70% of us are unemployed. If there was any other community that was 70% unemployed, women, gay people, black people, whoever, they would be out in the streets right now, as they should be. And so, yeah.
Oh, I'm just saying that reminds me of a situation at that camp that I went to, because they had able-bodied or abled counselors, and then they had disabled counselors.
Okay.
Well, there was a counselor there who was deaf, and she was totally deaf, but she could, she can speak and sign. and she was speaking to us, to a group of hearing children, and some able counselor came to her arguing, like pulled her off to the side, and we overheard her say that the hearing children can't understand you. Well, when we heard that, we immediately stood up and said, we understand her fine. We can understand her deaf accent.
Yeah.
We have no problems understanding her. She's doing fine. And that lady just backed off. And, the way she looked at us, but it felt so good to stand up for the deaf counselor. And she thanked us for that because she was really hurt by what that lady was telling her.
Imagine,
you can't do that. Those hearing children, they don't understand you. No, we understood her fine. Yeah. And so it reminded me of that when you mentioned that incident at the Capitol.
Yeah.
They found a way. They stood together. They spoke up together.
Well, and that's what a community is supposed to be. We're supposed to do that regardless of disability. We're supposed to be doing that as people.
Right.
Looking out for each other.
Yeah.
Forget all the race crap. Forget all the discrimination and bullshit. Like, you can still look out for each other. I always say, like, what we're supposed to be doing is when a kid goes missing, we're all supposed to open our houses up and say, look, they're not in here. Now let's go out and find that kid. And eventually we'll narrow it down to one or two people, and we go, okay, boom, they won't let us in their house.
Exactly.
Go in there and get the kid. It's
exactly.
But we are just so closed off, and we like who we like, and we see something happen like Hurricane Katrina. We're like, well, that's not us. We live in Pennsylvania. Or we live in
exactly. It doesn't matter. There's people.
They're people.
People in need.
Right. It's the same thing how I look at homeless people. Same thing I look at people who struggle with addiction. Like, I think one of the things I've kind of come to learn, especially with having a disability and then having friends who have struggled with addiction and homelessness, like, we're just like a huge reminder of how life can go sideways. And a lot of people try to separate themselves so far from it, like they couldn't succumb to that, but they don't realize that a couple bad payments, or, maybe you have a certain profession, you hurt yourself, now you start to take pills, or maybe you get into
something traumatic.
Yeah.
Or something traumatic happened and if you just can't deal with,
Yeah.
You don't know what life will throw you.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, even you and I, we have, I know you said you also have arthritis, so you have two disabilities. I have two with the mental health, and we're not opposed. Like, we're not, we can have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 disabilities. We're not.
I'm autistic too.
Yeah, we're not impervious to all this, but we obviously pray to God that doesn't happen for us. But at the end of the day, just because I'm visually impaired doesn't mean one day I can't lose a leg. Knock on wood, that doesn't happen. But
knock on wood. Yeah, do that.
It could happen. And I think another thing is, like, another reason why we should take care of our elderly, because primarily when you become elderly, you develop some sort of disability because you either your eyes go, your hearing goes, so you need hearing aids, you need glasses, you need
joints, something,
a cane, a walker. So it's like we're all headed to be disabled one way or another. And it's like, so take care of each other. Like, stop looking at it like it's this like freak thing. Like, oh God, you just start mutating. Like, they all look at it like it's Ebola. Like, it's just like, like, this stuff can happen to all of us. It can happen to your kids. And that's when people tend to care, is when it happens to them personally, or their kids or somebody they love.
Oh, yes.
Then it's like, oh, you know what? I need to stand up for this. But you should, if you're a kid out there, your parents should teach you, be friends with anybody. Be friends with the kid who sits alone at the lunch table, because he may be a good guy.
Speak up.
He's just lonely.
And speak up when you see wrong being done.
Yeah. And look,
be that one.
Yeah, and we've all screwed up. We've all probably jumped in on something and laughed at something. But like, again, kids you give a pass, but a lot of times it also has to do with how you're brought up. And that's where it really comes down to parenting, and which is something that we struggle. There's too many, fathers not in child's lives, and there's just too many parents on drugs, or parents that just or just in their child's lives, but they don't affect their child positively. Right,
they're not plugged in. They're just kind of, they do their own thing, and they're not involved with what their children are doing or what they're going through, or nothing.
Right. It's like, oh, I don't care. My 17-year-old daughter's twerking on Facebook or on TikTok. It's like, what are you doing? Like,
exactly.
It's you just,
it's more than providing food, shelter, money, and clothing. It's more than that to be a parent. But some parents just do that and think they're doing great.
No,
No,
oh
it's
yeah,
more than that.
yeah. They have a home. They go to school.
hmm
They got clothes
Yeah,
on them. That's I'm doing a good
they're
job. It's
being fed, but it's more to that, Yeah, hmm
or they're feeding their kids too much and they don't care. It's like, yeah, my kid is 250 and they're 11. It's like, okay, like you think that's okay? Like,
Right.
stop putting your
Something
bad behavior on them.
right. And see what's going on with that child. Why are they comforting themselves so much to where they're 250 pounds at 11?
Right.
There's something going on there in that child's life, that you're missing, that you
Yeah.
don't know about.
I saw like
Yeah.
suicide in young
hmm
girls is really high now, and it's like, man,
Yeah.
I mean, it's high in children and high in people anyway, but it's going up with young teenage girls. And it's
hmm
like, man, you have to know what your kids are. And again, some things are out of your control. Some things are happening at school,
Right.
but you need to be in their lives because
hmm
you're going to regret it the rest of your life if you find your child. And again, I never
hmm
want to wish that on anybody, but a lot of people are finding
No.
their kids dead. And,
Yes.
or they're finding, or they see them the last time at the corner. And it's like,
You're right.
man, you have to be in. I mean, as a person who struggled with mental health pretty much most of
hmm
my life, and I had a suicide attempt, and I was just gone mentally because I just hated life because I didn't have anybody that I felt at the time didn't care about me. And if you,
Oh, I've been there.
right,
I've been through that very mindset. I know what you mean.
yeah, it's a really
hmm
screwed up mindset, and it's really hard to talk you out of it. And
hmm
I mean, it's a lot of crazy thinking because again, you could be in a room full of people and feel alone. You could, there's
hmm
so many factors to it, and most people you can't come at it with, oh, it's going to be okay, or whatever. You have to really sit down and listen to them. You have to really open your mind to how they're thinking, regardless if it sounds idiotic or not. That's how they think. And you got to be aware of what your kid is going through. Because I mean, I love
Right.
my
And look
mom,
for the
but
signs.
yeah, I love my
hmm
mom, but sometimes she was dismissive of it because she didn't think that I would
Right.
hurt myself. She's like, "Oh, you're not going to do it," and for the most part, I wouldn't have. But I got to a place where I did want to because I just
hmm
I had no out, or at least I felt like I didn't have an out.
Right.
And it's just like, man, there's so many kids that are just, I mean, there's people killing people in general, but there's so many kids that are ending their lives or just people in general
hmm
because life just got too hard. And
Right.
sometimes you could be, that small chance that they would still be here if you're just either nice to that person or you're in their lives, you're giving them advice, opening your
Right.
heart to them because sometimes the reality is like some of this stuff is hereditary. We pass that on to them and
hmm
maybe they want to know what you've been through and they think, oh, my mom's or dad is great. They're just happy all the time, but they don't know when you're not around to go in the closet and cry or whatever.
Right. Right. And so they feel that they're not strong as their parents, so they must be a failure. And all kind of things go through their mind and stuff. And parents also need to look for the signs in their children. And, certain interests they used to have, they stopped doing.
Mm-hmm.
They're more withdrawn. Any little changes you see, and because parents know their children. They've known them since birth,
Right.
so they know when something's off. People need to be more aware of that. With their children who are struggling with mental health issues.
Yeah, or
hmm
just a friend, be in your friend's life, man. I mean, some of us,
hmm
my family, I wouldn't say they were necessarily super strict, but it was more tough love. When I got sick, then it was like, oh
hmm
my God, let's baby him, which I get. But
hmm
like, there was a lot of tough love, and there's still today where like me
hmm
and my grandmother, she's 92, I love her dearly, and we have weird moments where it's like, should I say I love her? But I know I do. I know she loves me, and it's like you really, whether it's a friend or a parent or whatever, like you have to really just let people know that you give a shit about them because there's so many people out here that
Yeah.
feel like no one cares about them, even if
Right.
it's silly, even if they know they have a mom and dad that love them, they still can feel like no one cares. I'm in my room, no one's asking me out on a date, or I'm in my room
Right. They
and
get stuck in that negative, dark mindset, and just to have someone say, "I care. What's going on with you? Are you all right?"
yeah,
That can mean the world to them.
yeah.
That someone out there, is concerned and cares.
You're
You
like
know,
mentally
that could.
burying yourself on
hmm
and you're like instead of climbing upwards, you're just letting yourself fall backwards and
Right.
And it's,
Right.
and again, if you don't know, you don't know. And thank God you don't know. But
Hmm.
there's a lot more people than you think out there that are going through it. And that's why I wish mental health wasn't treated like this thing that's like, oh,
Mm-mm.
there's certain people that go through it. And I think everybody has some form of it. It's just some people's is
Right.
more severe than others.
Right. Right. It gets, off, you know, to a tangent, and they can't hold themselves back and end up just keep going that way.
Right.
Right. Hmm.
Um, because I want to kind of, we could talk about all kind of things and go in different
Oh
directions. You
yeah,
could
we could
tell,
do this some more.
yeah, we
We
can,
can do this some more.
we will. But I wanted to talk about, you
Hmm.
said that you were taking care of your parents.
Yes. Yeah. My parents, they're in their mid 80s. My dad, mentally, he's good. Physically, he's not so good. My mom, physically, she's great, but her memory, and stuff. And so
Right.
they need different type of care, but they need care. So it's me, and then my son is staying with them, and then my daughter and niece who stay with me. We go over, and make sure that they are fed and got food and their
Yeah.
bills are paid and all that. And yeah, so it kind of, I'm like back and forth between my apartment and their house. Yeah.
Sure. But that's
Hmm.
cool that you have that strong bond and you pass that on to
Yeah.
your kids. And
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
it is really sad when you see someone you love or someone you've known forever, and you know them as this, unabashful, just beacon of light, and or whatever
Hmm.
their personality type is, and then you see them
Hmm.
deteriorate in one way or
I
another.
know, but it's not easy. But we're grateful they're still here, and we're just trying to make their lives as comfortable and as carefree as possible. Because they're up in age. They shouldn't have to worry about getting groceries and paying bills. They should just worry about getting up, morning. Eating their food and relaxing, and that's what we're basically doing
Yeah, because you
for them.
basically get taught by your
Hmm.
parents how to take care of someone, and then you hope when you get
Hmm.
older, if it ever goes downhill, like my mom
Hmm.
was there when I nearly died. So it's like, if it ever gets to a point where she's like, I need to stay with you and take care. It's like, I don't know if that would be an
Right.
option, but that's what she would like, I'd have to, because
Hmm.
she did it for
Oh
me.
yeah. Right. They did it for me all through my surgeries and recovery and back and forth for physical therapy and all that. So yeah, I sure don't mind. I don't mind at all.
Paid for
Because they did.
everything, all my clothing and
Right.
things, video games and stuff that they could
Hmm.
care less about. They just wanted it to make me happy.
Right. Right.
And that's just kind of,
Hmm.
again, more about community and just love and being
Hmm.
connected. And it's
Hmm.
good, especially like the fact that you pass it down to your kids, because then it's like they
Right.
know, because maybe sometime mom's going to need more help, and,
Right.
and then they'll have kids, and maybe their kids will become like your kids, and then so on and so on.
Hmm.
You keep passing these things down from generation to generation, and you
Right.
slowly build better people, because
Hmm.
we
Hmm.
have a dumpster fire of humanity right now. Like the world is really, and this is not about like the election or anything, because I don't vote. It's just the
Hmm.
world we're in right now is, especially this country even, we love to talk about we're the greatest nation in the world, but we have a lot of problems.
Oh yes, we have a lot of flaws. This nation is extremely flawed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that needs to be fixed. Yeah, and
Oh
that's you know what I'm focused on. I'm focusing on eliminating ableism as much as possible to
yeah.
where it's so rare that it stands out when it happens. It's not something that's just a normal everyday thing. Mm-mm.
Yeah, you
I
should.
wanted it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
No, you should not
Hmm.
accept like someone pitying you or feeling sorry for you. It's okay if you're like, man, I really feel for what you're going through. Like,
Yeah, concern is one thing, but
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
but don't belittle me, or because
Mm-mm. Dehumanize. Hmm.
yeah, I think some of the things that I've felt or I've witnessed and dealt with is it's either one thing or another. It's one extreme or the other. It's either, oh, okay, I know you're 36, but I'm going to treat you like a 2-year-old. I'm going to hold your hand and walk you
Hmm.
across the street. Or when
Hmm.
you say, no, I can see some, oh, you're not blind. Oh, you're not disabled at all. Okay, cool, fine. Good luck to you. And it's like, no, I'm asking you
Hmm.
for a little help. I'm not asking
Right.
you to, take care of me in my life. I'm just asking you to just give me one thing. And sometimes I've seen it where like someone will treat me a certain way, and then I'll go, hey, I have a vision problem. I remember this happened with a bus driver. And I was like, he was just like, well, why didn't you ring the bell? I was like, sir, I visually impaired. I didn't see where it was. He's like, oh my God, I'm sorry. I'm like, dude, I'm not trying to get you fired. I'm just telling you to be nicer to people. That's all. Doesn't matter my color.
Right.
It doesn't matter my gender. It doesn't matter about my disability or my financial status. Just be nice to everybody, and you won't have to deal with stuff like this.
Exactly.
That's all it is. Just be nice to people. I mean,
respect.
whoever they
It's
are.
all about respect, you know.
I don't care if they clean toilets. I don't care if they're a mom.
Right.
Whatever. You treat them the same.
I've always believed that too. Yeah. You know, social hierarchy or financial status, that doesn't matter. How are you as a person? Oh, you're a decent person? Oh, okay. What do you do for a living? Oh, you clean toilets? Oh, well, you have a job. That's wonderful. Yeah. I can care less, you know, if you're a Wall Street broker or someone who cleans toilets for a living. As long as you're, a decent person, that's all that matters, you know.
Yeah, I also really am keen on just displaying good energy and vibes, so that when I go into a room, there's a lot of people that are better off than me in a sense as far as their their vision or whatever. But it's like I'm holding doors for people. I'm still letting old people go by me or whatever. Just talking and conversating with others, just being friendly, and it's like I'm trying to still be a little bit of light in this grocery store or in this restaurant, whatever, because there's a lot of people you see, this is a bad time of year for people. They don't have the money, or they don't have family or a loved one or whatever. And it's like, for me, it's just like, I'm grateful for everything I have, and I'm grateful for the things I don't have. Even there are things I'm just like, you know what, I love that I have some vision. Would I like more? Yeah. But if it stayed like this, I'm okay. And especially when I have good health days, like I've been having, it's easier for me to be me and be some sort of light for others. Cause when I'm in a dark place, I'm not coming out. But I'm very keen on just trying to be a decent, not just a representative of the disability community, but just a decent person, because we don't have enough people who have manners and just respectful. There are people that are lovely people, but to their people or to people they love. And it's like, no, that's not, it's never me. I don't care about your age or any of that. Like, I'll be nice to you and respect you.
Right. Yeah, exactly. There are a lot of people who are, what they call it, superficial like that. Yeah. Like you just said, they're only nice to, people that are like them or whatever. And then the rest of the people, they just treat like trash. No, I don't go for that either.
No, yeah, I don't one of the things I'm most proud of is when I started looking through the podcast, and I was like, you know what? Man, I've had every race, primarily every disability, minus a couple really rare ones. I've had I've had gay, straight, whatever. I've had, everyone's been represented, and it wasn't intentional. I just had people on, and it wasn't about what they look like. It may have been about oh, hey, you're an amputee. I haven't had an amputee. Maybe that I did, but I never was like, oh, you're a black amputee. It was just
okay.
And it just became that. And then I looked through the guests, I went through all my guests at the time when I did it. I was like, man, everybody is represented here. And it's what I wanted, but I never intentionally did it. I just found people.
It just shows that's the type of person you are. It shows through your work. And that you will, here, you give everybody a voice. Yeah. Not just a certain sect or a certain type, We
all want to be heard. That's all it is. Before we kind of wrap up, is there anything else you want to kind of inform anybody about your condition, or maybe is there a website that people can kind of learn more about it, if you know any?
Well, there is a website called psfd.org.
Okay.
The last I checked, it was still active, and so. That's one website where you can get a lot of information on my particular disability, physical disability.
I don't know if it's up to you, because I know you do your own advocacy and you display. Is there any way if someone wants to reach out to you, get to know you, or just see what you're doing? It's up to you. You don't have to.
I guess on TikTok, I'm a Future Girl 2073.
Okay.
On TikTok, yeah, Catherine K2, it says on there, or Catherine Knight K2. Yeah,
Okay.
That's a good place. Yeah.
I don't even think we follow each other, so we'll have to. Um,
Oh, okay. Yeah, I gotta look for you. Yeah. Okay.
it's actually the same name as the podcast, My Blurred Opinion. So
Oh,
um,
okay. All right. I'll
keep
definitely look for yours.
keep it
Yeah.
easy. But I really, I know we've been trying to do this for a while, but I really appreciate you. And again, like I said,
Okay.
you ever need a friend, please reach out. We can talk anytime,
Oh.
and it doesn't have to be recorded. I just wanted to get your story out,
Oh. I will
um,
definitely do that.
and I'll let you know when it'll be out. Maybe 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay.
I'll let you know. But yeah, I thank you for being you, and just keep doing what you're doing.
All right. Thank you for having me,
Yeah,
Timothy.
anytime. And
All right.
you take care of your parents and yourself, and we'll talk soon.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
All
Bye.
right. Bye bye.
All right, everybody. We are out of here. That's 2 in a row today. Done recording for the day, but I'll have one tomorrow and the next day. But you guys won't know that because you'll be hearing them a week later. And I'm about to go to the gym. So Mr. Bullet is here. Oh, did you hear him? Want to say hi to the people? Come on. Say hi. Don't smell the mic. No? You're not feeling the people? What did people do to you, Mr. Bullet? They hurt you? All right. He doesn't want to do it. But he is laying here. He's really cute. He's calling my co-host because when the podcast starts, he always comes and lays right next to me here on the couch. Anyway, guys, again, like I said, you can follow me on My Blurred Opinion at TikTok or on TikTok at My Blurred Opinion. Did that backwards. Oh, the brain fog. But I'll see you guys next week. Everybody take care of yourself. And if you want to reach out, you need a friend or something, I'm here. Okay? All right, guys. See y'all later. Bye.